Hello there, my name is Rohit Saxena and I have qualified in the UPPSC exam 2016, the result of which was announced a few days earlier, and I got secured 11th rank and got the post of District Administrative Officer. So here I am being here to tell you about the strategies of how to crack the exam UPPSC. So first of all, one thing which I believe you all must be understanding here, that for cracking any exam there is a need to follow this principle of Henry Fayol, and that is unity of direction. Because unless and until you are focused and you know your target, you could actually not be able to achieve it. You have to be specific. You must know that, okay, this is the exam for which I am preparing, because there is a general perception among people, not only in Uttar Pradesh but everywhere, that if you prepare for UPSC you can crack any exam. But it's not true. We all know that a person preparing for UPSC, and the topper rather, Gaurav Agarwal 2013, could not clear SSC. So in that way, each exam has its own specific requirements. Each exam needs to be given due attention, and if that is not done, you definitely could not excel in that exam. So if you're thinking that you're preparing for UPSC and you could crack UPPSC, well, just merely on the preparations of UPSC, cracking PCS could be true, but as far as my experience is, I believe it is not gonna work. Because see, there are people in Uttar Pradesh specifically who've been preparing for this particular exam for years. And as you can see, if they are doing this already, you have definite challenge from these people. So UPSC definitely helps, because the kind of information and the kind of knowledge of general studies you get by preparing for UPSC helps you in the process. But again, my ultimately I would like to say that if you are focusing on PCS, at least give it a shot in a proper manner. Prepare for 4, 5, 6 months for PCS specifically, and then I believe you could achieve your dream, or you could become a PCS officer. So what it takes to be a PCS officer? Well, those basic things which are required in any exam. For example, you need to have perseverance. You need to be honest. Well, honest with yourself, because we can deceive anyone. We can read a book showing that we are reading a book to the society for hours, but we know what we are doing actually. So honesty is a very important value which you should have while preparing for this exam, and also it requires a lot of hard work. So there is no shortcut for success. It has to be a long journey, and you have to put in that labor, that hard work, and only then you could achieve your dream. So I have qualified this exam which was in 2016. So the point is that the pattern was different at that time. That used to be, there was one paper of Hindi language, which was of 150 marks. I'm talking about mains right now. There was this second paper of essay, which was used to be of 150 marks. Then there was to be a paper of GS1 which was optional, so ABCD type paper. It was of 200 marks. Then there was another paper that was GS second, again optional, and that used to be of 200 marks. And then there were two optional, so there was optional 1, which again has two papers, paper 1 and paper 2, so that was 400 marks. And then there was another optional, so optional 2, again paper 1, paper 2, 400 marks. So this is how they used to conduct this exam, and it used to be of 1500 marks, 300, 500, 700, and yes, 1500 marks. And then you have an interview of 200 marks, so you get 1700, and out of this you based on your marks, you get your positions. So that is the pattern which I gave exam in 2016. But now the pattern has changed. And more importantly, I've talked about the mains syllabus more importantly. Because see, at the end of the day, you cannot have a target of clearing prelims, because clearing prelims is not a big feat. ultimately you're given exam to clear it, and mains is the most important part. And before anything else, you must prepare for mains, and you must know that the more marks you get in mains, the less pressure you'll have in the interview. So this is the old pattern which was there. So my options were history and political science and international relation. Well, these are the subjects which I was very comfortable at, because history is also my optional in UPSC, and PSIR is the second best subject I like. I mean, it was my graduation only. So these two the subjects were one which I was very comfortable with. Now the pattern has changed now. So the pattern has more or less become more UPSC kind of pattern. So let's talk about the pattern which has been changed now. So with the current pattern, you have the same. There was okay, prelims. Let's talk about the prelims first. So in prelims, you'd see there are two papers. So the first one is of GS. So you will have 150 questions. That will be of 200 marks. And the second paper is CSAT. So again, you will have I just don't remember, I think it was 150 questions or 100 questions. So it's more 100 questions, and again it carries 200 marks. A bit doubtful here right now. So the point is that ultimately this is qualifying. So you just need to get 33%, like UPSC. You're supposed to get 33% right, and then you will sail through. But in GS, the merit is formed on the basis of your marks in GS. So this turns out to be very important. Prior to 2018, there used to be no negative marking in the prelims, but now you have also a negative marking in prelims, like UPSC. So you have to be very much cautious now in this particular paper, GS1. But I still believe that if you got 100 to 105 questions correct, after taking into consideration the negative, you will sail through, because this is a very safe score in PCS. So I think 100 and 105 questions, if you're getting them, again it depends also upon the level of questions. So if it is a very simple paper, you could expect it to go a bit higher to 110, but 110 questions is something which you'll be getting. There is nothing in this world which could stop you from writing mains. So this is very significant. You just need to get 105, 110 right, and then you'll sail through. And I think as far as CSAT is concerned, it is basically the mathematics, reasoning and comprehensions, and for that elementary practice is definitely required. But one should not be kind of, should get scared about CSAT, because there are people whom I meet and used to say, okay, GS to ho jayega, but what about CSAT? So I would say that CSAT, don't consider CSAT to be a devil, because it is not. It is very simple. Because you have a 10th level mathematics, elementary mathematics they ask. Similarly, very basic reasoning questions are there. And Hindi part of this particular paper is very simple and very direct. I am also from humanities background, from arts background, so again mathematics is something which also was not a cup of tea for me. But I could tell you that you should be honest. For what you can do is, you can practice like around 20 question papers before the exam. So around daily you can practice a single question paper, and that is how I think it will not be much of a problem to clear this. So 20 questions, so 20 question papers, one per day. So 20 days before the exam you could practice them, and I think it will not be a problem, because ultimately you are supposed to get 33%. Remember that you should not get into the cobweb of the negative marking. So if you're able to do 40 questions correctly in CSAT, don't jump in to do more, because it will not be counting in merit. So just focus on getting these much marks. GS, obviously, you'll have history, geography, you have current affairs, and we'll discuss about the books or the sources which you can go through. So this is prelims, more importantly. Let's talk about the next stage. So when you will clear prelims, and I'm sure you all will, you will enter the main phase, the mains. So the pattern of mains has changed now. So the pattern of mains, in which the Hindi paper is still intact, so you have 150 mark question paper, so you have Hindi. In Hindi they generally ask you to write in, there is this this comprehension, unseen comprehension. There are two unseen comprehensions actually. Also you have in the Hindi paper you have these Vakya Shuddhi, you have the Vilom Shabds, antonyms, you have the idioms and phrases, Muhavre, and these are the things which you get particularly. And also you get this letter writing part. So you get to write the Paripatra, the circular, or the Ardha Sarkari Patra, or different kind of official letters. So this letter writing part is also what they ask in the Hindi paper. Okay, this is something which was definitely difficult for me because I belong to the English medium. So here what I did was that there is this book of Prithvinath Pandey, a very important book. So I think you can also make a use of these books. This is a very important book, and you can get all these formats, and actually completely deliberately it is written for PCS. So it's a very handy book. It's a very handful book in this particular part. You could give it a shot. And also I believe the most important part is getting good marks in Hindi or cracking actually Hindi this paper only, is that you should focus on your writing. And that is your spelling mistakes. You should avoid them as much as possible. Because there was a time when I used to believe that nahi, we write nahi like this. But then I realized that there is, this dot is also there. So I do not, pay adherence to these minor spelling mistakes. But the examiners, they do. Well, while checking the copies, they focus on these things. Okay, there is this error in the spelling, and they'll say that he do not know how to write Hindi, he could not be fit in the services. So focus on writing part in Hindi. That is very important. Rest is obviously mugging up those antonyms, synonyms, or the idioms and phrases, and they ask quite difficult idioms and phrases. But so that you need to go through this book. I think this will be very much handy, so it will not be a problem. Then you have the essay paper. Now in the essay paper, again it is of 150 marks. They ask you to write 3 essays of 700 words each. So again, I mean, essay is something which showcases your personality. It depicts your personality, and it depicts the level of intellect. So essay actually depicts your personality and your level of intellect. And that is why, I mean, what happens is, you should choose your essay very carefully. See, content is definitely not a problem. If you're a serious aspirant, you read a lot, you read newspapers, you read different books. So content is never a problem while talking about writing an essay. But what is more important is the structuring, and also before that, choosing the topic well. Because there are times when you feel that this particular topic, it seems very attractive, an examiner would be thrilled by knowing the facts I know, but then you realize that you know very little about it, and you know stuffs which could fill around 2 pages or 3 pages, but you still are supposed to write 3 more pages, and then you will be in a dilemma. And if you've started it, and then it will be like a nightmare, because you have the question come answer booklet. So you should choose your essay very carefully. Think that you have content for it, and for that you can also use the rough pages for making drafts. So drafting is a very important thing. You should make drafts there, and then you should be very much sure. So take your time. I mean, you could take around half an hour or even more than that in just choosing and making a draft of these essays, because writing part is very simple. Once you know the entire structure, once you know what is the content, once you've made the draft, it will only be putting it on paper, and that will not take much time, because you can write it in even 20 to 30 words per minute. Still you will be able to sail through. So choosing the topic is very important, and then most importantly, structuring turns out to be important. So structuring is a significant part, and what I suggest here, that what you could do is you could join a test series for essay particularly, because generally what happens is we take essay for granted. We think that okay, and no problem, we'll write it anyway, but it is not the way it is, because essay, when you're supposed to write on a particular topic 700 words, it showcases that sometimes what happens is we drift away from the topic. Sometimes what happens is that we cannot express properly what we want to convey. So expressions become a problem, time management becomes a problem, and all of these could be avoided if you join a test series. So joining test series, I think, is a very good idea about essay and also in GS, particularly in answer writing. So you could join a test series, and that will be very much helpful in that way. The topics are also kind of much expected in PCS, because they generally ask a topic is always related with the women issues, agrarian issues, cultural issues. So it's very much expected. Defense. So these are three, four major lines upon which the essay paper is made. So again, not a problem. Content will not be a problem. Your problem solving attitude, how you deal with that challenge which has been thrown in the essay, and how innovative solutions you give in the end, how you structure your essay, how you use those examples, quotations to make it more appealing is what matters. So you should rather join a test series, and that will not be a problem. Then in current pattern you will have 4 GS papers, and the syllabus is exactly the same as there is in UPSC. So GS paper 1 will have that history, it will have geography, it will have social issues. Similarly, GS paper 2 has this polity, it has IR, it has governance. GS paper 3 has economics, agriculture issues, disaster management, it has internal security, and then GS paper 4 has basically ethics and case studies. Also among these papers you have specific parts of Uttar Pradesh. So for example, Uttar Pradesh is history, Uttar Pradesh culture, Uttar Pradesh is political system and governance, Uttar Pradesh is agrarian problems, economic system, budget. So in that way, there is this also a part of Uttar Pradesh. Now, for this particular part, you could definitely use the very famous, the Bible in PCS, the Ghatna Chakra. So you could use Ghatna Chakra. I mean, this, I believe, by far is the best book you can have of preparing anything with respect to PCS. So in that way, Ghatna Chakra is something which you should always focus on. UP specific Ghatna Chakra is also being published by them. So buy them and go through them. It's more kind of factual information which matters here, and just try to get acquainted with it. And that is what I said, that each exam has its own requirements. So here Uttar Pradesh is an important requirement, and I believe that it is better to focus on this particular part, because it's for the first time you will be having, we do not know what kind of question paper they'll ask because the pattern has just changed, but it is expected that because in the provincial civil services you have them this tendency of asking more state related questions, and in that way if you are not aware of these things, you could not actually get that extra edge which the person specifically preparing for UPSC is getting. So unity of direction, so focus on this part very importantly. You can buy Ghatna Chakra, and obviously you can get better. Talking about other aspects for history, obviously it's very basic. You could definitely use Spectrum, a very important book as far as I believe in history. Again, geography, well, for geography nothing is better than NCRTs. Social issues, I have used this book of C.N. Shankar, but there is another important book, that is 11th and 12th NCRT. That is a very important source, and also focus on the news. So newspaper is another major source, because more direct questions and more questions related to the contemporary problems have been asked by the commission. So this is something which will suffice. In polity, nothing could defeat Lakshmikant. So Lakshmikant is by far the best book. For IR, focus on the current happenings. Newspaper could also give a shot to Pushpesh Pant's book, very small book of international relations for the brief ideas. Governance, again, Lakshmikant would do the job. The latest edition is also prolific in that. And also keep an eye on the governing issues in governance which have been, which are in news 6 months or 7 months before the exam. So that is something which you could do. Economics, well, for economics, I believe NCRT is perhaps a good book, a very important source to get information. And again, it all boils down to reading newspapers, because you just know the basics. The questions which they are asking, again, is more current related. So again, newspapers are important. And then for these smaller kind of sections, disaster management and security, you could buy notes of different coachings are there. They provide these brief notes of these topics, so that will not be a problem. So in that sense, and ethics more importantly. So for ethics, you could use this book of Dr. S.N. Singh. So, it's a very good book, although it is a bit high in the level of intellect, but it is a very good book. Dr. S.N. Singh's book is something which you could refer to. And also for case studies, again, you can take help of these coaching sample questions, case studies, and various coachings in Allahabad and in Mukherjee Nagar and in Rajendra Nagar are there, which publish these things. So that will not be a problem anyway. So in that sense, you read. What is more important is you should limit your material. Don't try to create libraries, because if you create libraries, then it will be a nightmare. Then it will be like you'll not be able to complete anything. So instead of reading 10 different books for one part, read one book, more importantly, 10 times. So that is very important. That is the mantra of clearing this exam, because in civil services there's too much to study. So if you keep on buying books of the same subject for getting that little extra, it's not going to work. Focus on studying with very specifically a single book, and that will be very much important. And more importantly, you have to have trust that whatever you're reading is anyway kind of significant, and trust is very important on your sources. So I think these are the credible sources also. Trust on your source. Read, and then let the fateful day come, and that will decide what questions you get. You'll definitely be lucky if you practice it like that. What is more important here is answer writing, because now you do not have those tick mark questions. You have the emphasis on answer writing. So again, answer writing means it depends upon your structuring of the answer. So structuring means a proper introduction, body, and then a futuristic, this is very important, conclusion part. So it should be futuristic, it should give solution, it should be practical solutions, and also at this particular part you should also focus on showing your optimism, because you're going to be the civil services. You cannot write that all is so dark. You should show the bright side. You should write in a futuristic, practical and optimistic conclusions. That is important. Also structuring includes giving proper headings and subheadings, underlining those important points to make the life of examiner easier, so that he could quickly glance through your copy and give you more marks. So that is more importantly, structuring is the key. And the second most important part in answer writing is making your answer more specific. Because now you have word limits. So, for example, 150 words, 200 words, and you could not write those entire Ramayans in these particular parts. So you have to be specific. You have to write what is being asked. So you should hit the bullseye. If you go here and there, the examiners are so smart. I mean, they've been professors, or they've been checking copies for years, so they know that he's just beating around the bush. He's not talking straight. So you'll not get good marks. So the point here is to be specific. So write what has been asked by the question. For that, read the question properly. Because sometimes what happens in hurry, we do not read the questions properly, and that creates problem. Because if you do not read the question properly, it will be it will be a great disaster, because sometimes you miss out the important part of the question. So if it is asking about, say for example, the architectural and art of a particular era, you focus only on architecture, miss out the art, so you write half the answer. Art includes a lot of other aspects as well. So focus and read the question specifically, and also you should write arguments which are very much direct and related, and also must substantiate it with facts. Because if you say that, for example, there is poverty in India, so everybody knows there is immense poverty in India, you're not writing something which can appeal the examiner. You should, if you quote the Tendulkar committee data or the C. Rangarajan committee data, then you will make your answer more specific. Okay, this much percent is below poverty line, or through the socio-economic caste census, this much particular population is below poverty in India. So in that sense, make your answer more specific, add facts to it, give credible facts, and underline them. So it become more appealing. Okay, he is reading so many reports and government stuffs and books, so that will give you an extra edge. So write these examples properly, write these facts properly, and then definitely you will be able to make good marks. So writing political answers of polity, add those articles, relevant Supreme Court cases, that will make it more specific, and that is how you will get better marks, because everybody knows that Supreme Court has said that this particular thing is void, this particular thing is illegal, but then in which judgment it has said. If you write that, it will add value to your answer. So again, answer writing specifically means that you should be specific and focus on structuring, and for that I again would say joining a good test series is by far the best solution. You should read those stuffs which I've told you, focus and read a newspaper religiously daily, because I would say still you can't rely on these capsules, on the magazines which are provided by the coachings per month. Though they are credible, but still newspaper has its own significance. It makes you better as far as your language is concerned, and in essay it helps, and also something the reading habit which you get, the kind of vocabulary which you get is very significant. So I think newspaper reading is very important. You cannot avoid it at all. So joining a good test series would help sailing through. So that is also important. And last phase of also there is this optional, and then you have the optional of 400 marks. So the optional part is also there, and again earlier it used to be 2 optionals, now it is only 1 optional. So kind of relief. So what should be your optional? Well, this is a more I could say personal question, because you see, optional selection of optional is a dicey thing. Why? Because you do not know. I mean, there are 3 basic criteria that I'll just simply tell you to pick an optional. I think you should pick an optional if it suits, it was there only with you. So the background, education background is very important. For example, I'm masters in history and also a scholar in history. So for me history was a very obvious choice, a natural choice, because I've been reading history for like 8-9 years. So I know that subject already, and I know that how to write answers. I know historians, I know concepts. So it was a natural choice for me. If there was 2 optionals, I chose political science and international relation, another subject which was there in my graduation. So that is the more obvious choice. Your background is very important. I mean, sometimes you think that, okay, if you have done your graduation and if you're not read properly during your graduation, and that is again a lack of seriousness. But I think knowing the subject in advance is something which gives you an extra edge, because you need to start from the scratch. So that is very important. So if you have the educational background in the subject, and if you think you're good at it or you can improve at that, pick that subject. Secondly, if you have doubts with respect to few subjects, what you could do is you could check their syllabus. Just read and go through their syllabus and find with which subject you have more affinities. I mean, which suits you better, the topics of which looks more appealing, and this length of which particular subject is less. That also is a consideration. So look at that. Also, you can look at the previous year papers and just go through them and see, okay, these kind of question has been asked in this particular optional, and I think this is something which I can answer. So go through previous year question papers and see the pattern and see the kind of questions, and just see that whether you're comfortable in it. So that is the second standard of choosing particularly an optional. And third is obviously the scoring is significant. In PCS at least there is this concept of scaling. So you never know which option is going to give you more marks or which option is going to bring you down. So scaling is a very important part. So you just also look at this trend which is there in PCS over the years, 2-3 years, and then you should also kind of pick this optional. So scaling is also important consideration. See which subject is giving you normal marks all the time, because there are subjects, for example, social work is a very buzz-making subject in this particular part, or defense. They give you very high marks with very little preparations. But then at times you see it's a slump of these subjects. But then there are subjects like history, geography, which are evergreen. So you get at least normal marks every time. So I think choosing that is more important, because that will at least give you kind of surety. Okay, I'll not be completely like, there people are getting 300s, now they got 100. So 200 marks slump there in these subjects, the popular subjects. So again, this scaling part and scoring part is important. So these are 3 things which you could focus and could help in picking syllabus, so the optional. So this is something which is important. And lastly is the interview. So this is looks very easy. I mean, it seems that interviews have no significance if you get good marks in mains. But as you do not know what marks, how much marks you've got in mains, so this becomes very important. And I would say that interview, you should take it very seriously. As soon as you get that SMS that you have to qualify in mains, then you should prepare for interviews straight away. And most important part is the current affairs. Whatever going around you is very important. Your optional information about your city, state, statistics about Uttar Pradesh, and what is going in Uttar Pradesh. So the events which have been organized in Uttar Pradesh. For example, I was asked that this event was organized in Lucknow a few days earlier, and it was the Yuva Kumbh. So that is a question. Then also in PCS you have a lot of factual questions. So the triviatic questions they ask. For example, I've been asked the difference between Jurmana and penalty. Now, this is something which I do not know. And in interview, I think what is more important here is they check your confidence. It's a personality test. They check your confidence and they check your honesty. So when you do not know, do not bluff. Politely say, sir, I do not know. I do not, I'm not sure about it, so I could not give the answer. And if you want to, if you're 50-50, then you say, sir, if you allow, then I could guess. Don't say blindly, so okay, sir, this is this. Because that will show lack of confidence. I mean, it naturally comes to your face. So that is something which you should never do. Don't bluff. Say sorry. And see, you have cleared mains, you have cleared prelims, you have ample knowledge, have trust in yourself, have confidence, and show honesty there. So there are many questions which they are. For example, they asked me the exact number of members in IMF at the beginning. I said, I do not know, sir. They asked me many other questions which I was not comfortable at. I said, no, wait for your chance. I said, no, wait for your chance, because they judge you. Okay, you're not good at factuals. Let me ask a few conceptual questions, and then capitalize on that. So you can capitalize on these conceptual questions later on. So I've been asked for the problems of the judicial system or the problems of the agrarian sector. That is something I think which everyone, I mean, just a serious aspirant knew about that. So you can sail through by giving those answers. So don't feel that, okay, first 5 minutes or first 4 minutes or first 2 minutes of my interview have gone so bad. I mean, I was not able to give any answer. That means that nothing could happen. I'm doomed. It is not the case, because one of my friend who's also got selected has worst of his interview in the first 7 minutes. And he was able to give, I think, 2 right answers of the 10-12 questions which have been asked. So in that way, don't lose your heart. His interview continued for like 32 minutes, and then you see him getting selected in the services. So in that way, don't lose heart. It's not like, okay, you can't give the factual right, you can't get through. Just show your confidence, show your honesty. Okay, I know that, I can do that, but I'm not able to do. So that is very significant, and that is the key of interviews. So again, focus on these parts, and the board is very cordial. It's never pushes you or tries to confuse you. It does sometimes, but it is always cordial. When I entered, say, okay, relax, think you're selected, sit with relax. So I was like, okay, the chairman is saying so I felt comfortable. So they'll try to make you comfortable as soon as you enter the board, and in that way, don't worry about it, just enjoy. I was singing songs just before when I was about to enter the room. So just stay calm and stay confident, and you'll get there and you'll make it. So interview is a very significant part. So these are the aspects, these are the things which you must give due focus upon. Unity of direction is very important. The principles the values which I think are very important in the whole preparation strategy is important, and more importantly, it is the hard work which pays off. So remember, education never is a waste, and hard work always pays off. There are times when you feel that you've worked so hard and you failed. Maybe something was still missing, maybe something could still be improved. Have optimism in life, and once you have this optimism in life, nothing is gonna stop you from achieving your goals. So in that perspective, I would say it definitely will not be a problem. But again, I would say have unity of direction. If it is PCS, it should be PCS. At least give due respect to the exam which you are giving. Don't say that it is a minor exam, giving it for the sake of giving, or I can crack it anytime. The exam, this commission is much smarter than you. It could deceive you. So don't bluff, because these exams are very important. They could make or break your life. So give them that seriousness. And I think that is the meaning of a serious aspirant. And I believe that you have a dream, and the dream comes true only with your hard work and your honesty. So that is something which you will keep. You will definitely be successful. So Thank you very much. I mean, this is what I was willing to tell you, and there is no secret for success actually. The only secret is hard work, and my dear friend, enjoy working hard. Thank you.
Cake